All right, so once again, a very good morning. And today I would like to speak with you about virtual public speaking. Because as we talked before the animation, we are in the process of post-pandemic or still pandemic, but we are moving into post-pandemic world. And the virtual world, I think, will stay with us. Obviously, we'll move to offline, but virtual stage will stay with us. So I would like to shed the lights on how to survive on this virtual setup. My name is Tomasz Manugiewicz, and I'm a general manager of Krakow site for Grand Parade William Hill Company. Today, within roughly 30 minutes, I will be sharing my thoughts, what I've learned during pandemic. So the first things first that I've learned is that who is the virtual public speaker? The virtual public speaker is actually every one of us. When we moved our meetings online, we became public speakers because we no longer know who will dial into our call. And that's my photos at the beginning of pandemic in March, April 2020. I was working from home. I was a little bit thinking about my camera setup and so on, but it was looking like this. And after 1.5 years already joining some virtual conferences, when I moved my speaking passion to the virtual stage, I adjusted to this world and provide setup like this that you see here. And today I would like to tell you about my story during that 1 year and how I moved my public speaking skills from the offline to online. So why to bother? Why would you need to, or would you like to listen to me talking about public speaking? Because we all became virtual public speakers. We all right now taking part in virtual events, even if it's a small one, if that's a team meeting. That's the event that either we host or we participate, and we need to share our thoughts during this event. So that's why it's definitely important. But is it the public speaking skills that we need? According to me, I think that yes, because we present ourselves on the camera, on the movie. So we are not able to anymore connect with the people via interactions, via showing our emotions and so on. People just see two-dimensional picture of us, usually of our face or our the front part of our body. So yes, I think that we all became virtual public speakers. And today I would like to think about 3 things and tell you about 3 things about your comfort and well-being while public speaking in virtual space, about the hardware setup, how we can easily improve the pictures that I showed you at the beginning to the pictures that I show you on the second slide. So how to improve and how to have quick wins in terms of hardware setup. And last but not least, the most important actually, how to produce inspiring content to show that we have some interesting things to say. So the first one, virtual comfort. Your comfort in a virtual space. Your comfort is mostly connected with your feelings. Obviously, not only, there are other parts like physical health, like good mood and a good sleeping habit that you can have before the meeting. But most importantly, your feelings improves your virtual meetings. So at the beginning, when you start the meeting, take a deep breath. That's for sure, everyone will tell you that. But why to take this deep breath? To focus on yourself. So not to focus anymore on the hardware setup, not to focus on the audience, how many people are joining the conference, what are the people on the other side of the camera should I be worried about some attendance or not. It's more about taking a breath, thinking about yourself, how you feel. So focus on yourself. And there are few stages that we can be in. You can see here on this cycle, basic emotions. I will not go deeply into that, but basic emotions, we can be happy, we can feel surprise, we can be sad, we can be angry, and so on and so forth. But behind those main emotions, there are a lot of different states that we are. So when it comes to happiness, we can feel confident when we start a meeting and we know what we will be talking about. But also we can feel excited about the event. However, on the other side, we can feel anger. So we can feel frustrated because our hardware doesn't work anymore and we need to present something. So there are a lot of examples like this, but the most importantly is this action. Take the breath and identify your feelings, your state. Where are you at the beginning of the meeting? Because then if you identify it, you will be able to at least manage or at least survive those different stages and emotions, because you will know that, okay, I'm angry because actually my hardware doesn't work, or I'm happy because I'm confident in my presentation. So your feelings, one side, and the other side is your audience feelings. Bear in mind that especially in the virtual world, people have different setup in the at home with the computers. They can have different issues with the regular things that needs to be done at home. They can have some difficult times, but also they can feel relaxed and maybe not focused on your presentation. So you need to also, the second stage is to feel about the audience feelings. And again, roughly speaking, looking on the emotional state that we can be, identify that your teammates can be happy or maybe surprised because they don't know what you will be talking about, or they can be sad because the deployment just didn't go well yesterday. So all the emotional states will impact and interfere with your message. So once you have identification of those emotional states, then embrace the silence. Because the silence during meeting can be really, really helpful for various reasons. First things first, when you do the pause, the audience notice that and they think, oh, this guy will share some interesting fact, or this guy actually doesn't know what he or she will be talking about. So silence brings attention. When I speak loudly and very quickly, like at the beginning, and then I pause, it means that something is happening, something is going on. So you can attract your audience, even if they are in various emotional states, by asking questions and put the silence out on the meeting. There will be some people who will answer this question because the silence doesn't last long usually on the meeting. But obviously, if the silence will last longer, that's also fine, because people may need some time to and to be encouraged or to have this ability to speak up out loud. So silence is the good one. And also you can facilitate the silence. So as I said, you can facilitate and manage your speed of talking, your tone of talking, and also the silence. The other question that you need to ask yourself is, where does your energy come from? Usually I would ask about your answers, but right now within 30 minutes and this electronic setup, I will not ask personally out loud, but you can ask, you can answer this question yourself. Where does your energy during the meeting come from? And the question that will help you is the following. When you are tired on Friday evening, do you prefer spending time with your friends or with a book? Now it's time for silence. People can think, the friends or the book or the friend. And yes, if you would like to spend with your friend, and that's how you get energy, you get the energy meeting with people, interacting with each other, you can think about setting up your Zoom or BlueJeans or other applications with the video conferencing tool like this. So a lot of cameras, a lot of pictures of people. You can ask people to shake a hand at the beginning, just to say hello. All the things that will give you energy. So when you see this picture, you can get the energy, and your presentation will be more powerful. However, there are some people that may be scared about this picture. That's totally okay. We are all different. So if you prefer staying on Friday evening with a book or with just one friend, you can configure your video tool for this setup. Just one person in front of yourself on the screen, and you can forget about these hundreds of people joining your video call, because you just speak with one person. So that's a fairly easy trick to bias our mind, that we will think that we'll speak just to one person, and after some time you may forget about all the audience. And when you know about your energy and know about the audience states that they can be in, then you need to take care of your audience. So again, besides emotional states, I also mentioned about some situational differences and difficulties that people may have while listening to you virtually. And there will be different challenges. So bear in mind that some people need to turn off their camera, and that's totally okay. Obviously, at the beginning, personally, I encourage people to turn on the camera because I would like to see you guys, and I encourage you to shake a hand and so on. But I appreciate that some people need to have the time offline, I mean, without the camera, because they deal with some challenging situation. So not to bother about that. That's not about you. That's not about your content. That's about the state and situation when this person feels, excuse me, or thinks. So that's the one situation. Also, when people are on mute, they need to unmute themselves to answer your question. So when you ask the question and you have silence, that's totally okay. People need to, the first things first, think about the question. The second thing, unmute themselves, and the third, answer, which takes a couple of seconds. So that's totally okay. Okay, so the first one is most likely covered already, about your state and audience state. And now the technical parts, hardware setup, tips and tricks. So the main thing is positioning your camera. While you are on online meeting, you usually observe people sitting in front of the laptop with the camera like this and looking from the top, even slightly. Some people have also camera on the top of the bigger screen, and they look on the laptop and the camera is on the top, right? Set up like this. We don't like it because we don't feel connected with the person speaking. What we do like is the camera on the eye level, that you can have eye contact with people, and looking on this small dot on the top, which is the camera, from time to time, obviously, because it's hard to look on the small dot for 30 minutes or 1 hour. But from time to time, will make your audience feeling that you have the eye contact with them. So that's the most important, and we don't need any fancy cameras, any fancy tools. You just need a regular laptop and something that will be putting you this laptop higher. Books also works in this situation. The other part is your lighting setup and your background. So lighting, obviously, sometimes when you have windows behind you, the windows are really bright and your face is getting dark. Sometimes it's even hard to recognize who that person is or recognize the emotion states. So pay attention not to have windows on your back. Preferably have the windows on your front, behind the camera. If you don't have any window in that setup of the room, make sure that you have proper lighting, putting the light on your face. Why? First things first, because if the color or if the screen looks attractive, people will it will attract the attention of people, and also people can recognize your emotions. And we as a human beings tend to connect to each other and tend to listen to each other when we hear and when we see the expressions of the face and emotional expressions. And last but not least, and very important, your internet connection. Yes, internet connection, preferably LAN cable, if not Wi-Fi, but stable. In my office where I usually broadcast my talks, I have two providers of the internet, just because if one provider has the challenge and the connection doesn't work, the other can still provide me the internet connection, even in the middle of my presentation. So that's also important. There are obviously more and more technical aspects, and how to set up all the stage and so on. There are fancy gadgets and tools, and I love it personally, reading about it and then buying it. But as simple as it is, you don't need to have the fancy hardware at the beginning. All right, and the third aspect is the content preparation. So the content is your message. So all the things that I'm talking about right now in virtual world make a difference, and this is not about slides. Even in the virtual space, I would say that slides are not really good. Actually, I'm sharing my slides today with you, but not sure about your Zoom setup. But if you have my face on the bottom corner, very small one, and you look on the slides, you don't have much information in the middle of the slide, so you just watch couple of sentences, right, or a couple of words. What I would love to watch when I listen to people, I would like to watch either the full face and small slides in the bottom, or if the slide is very detailed, half on the screen. So that's outside of your control as a speaker, because that's something that this decision is made by your audience. But what you can do, if you have slides, you can prepare attractive content in your slides, meaning that slides needs to be simple, and slides needs to be just support of what you are talking about. Personally, I have rule about 3. So our brain tends to remember things that are between 3 or 5 points. More than 5 points are totally unreadable for or we have the challenges with remembering that. If we have 1 or 2, we could be bored. So that's why for me it's 3 that I usually use on my slides. 3 type of information or 3 section in the whole presentation that I prepare. And it gives me 3 minutes roughly full slide, Obviously, this is not a rule written in stone, because if you have many slides and just putting one sentence or one word on the slide to attract the attention, you can have more, you can spend less than 3 minutes, obviously. But it works for me. And you can also surprise your audience with your slides. So you have some template, going through the template, going the predictable flow of your presentation, which is needed to provide you a secure space when you think this guy will lead from the beginning to the end, this presentation, but in the middle, you can have surprise. And you can either have surprise about your voice, like silence, like speaking more actively, or like having different color of slide or different layout of slide. This is all about attracting our attention, because in virtual space we have a lot of obstacles that we need to fight to listen to one presenter. What you can also do, and I believe you already know that, this is just out of having all the content here, is breakout rooms. So usually when you lead a meeting which lasts longer than half an hour or even 15 minutes, if that's the online training, you should or you need to break people out on the rooms. Why? Because if you have 30 people on the call listening to you, 15, 20, 30 minutes, people can get bored just after 10 minutes. So usually in my training, when I do not speaking aspect, but training aspect through online, I have 20, maybe 15 minutes of talking and then 20 minutes of breakout room exercise. And again, I mentioned about predictable flow. So audience feels safe that if they know that this guy who leads the meeting will lead them from the beginning to the end without any complication. So they trust the speaker that the talk will be predictable and also interesting. So I would like to also encourage you to have this rule of less is more. So to avoid slides with many bullet points, many data on it, that you just read through the slides. Obviously, after the meeting or after the training, you can send those slides. That's a different type of slides than you are presenting. So you present more comprehensive layout and comprehensive information. And on the follow-up, you can add more details, references, data, and stuff like this. The main aspect of it is that people, when you listen to me and you see the slide, you focus on the slide, especially virtual. So if I would have 10 bullet points here, you will not be hearing me anymore. You will be just going through the bullets and you will be lost and we be frustrated at the end. So the very main basic aspects of public speaking in virtual space is those three: your comfort plus your audience comfort, hardware setup that you can have, very basic at the beginning, and inspiring content. Obviously, there are a lot of tips and tricks that we could cover during even one day of training about that, but this is the main simplest one. And if you implement those rules that I gave you during those 25 minutes today, you can feel confident. You can feel confident that your meeting has the structure, that your meeting has the proper technological setup, that your meeting has the content that is inspiring, and audience will not be bored. So let's try, and I encourage you to design your slides and present it to your friends or your colleagues in your company, and try to practice the virtual talks. Thank you very much for this part, and now I would like to open up for questions, and I would like to give the voice back to studio.